He stepped in her life with nothing but a quiet smile. But the day she needed him most, she learned he was never who he claimed to be. They said rock bottom was the end of the road. But for Harper Quinn, rock bottom came with an eviction notice and a child asking if they could still have cereal for dinner. The wind bit sharp that morning. Brooklyn rooftops steamed under the weight of another lost dream as Harper stood outside her tiny walk-up, gripping a paper bag of cheap groceries. Her hands trembled, not from the cold, but from the numbers in her account. $32. No rent, no backup, no lifeline. Inside, a small voice called from the cluttered hallway. "Mommy, I drew a puppy." Harper forced a smile. Her 4-year-old daughter, Mia, was the only light in a world that had long gone dim. Wide-eyed, whip-smart, always dreaming. Harper sank to the floor beside her daughter. "Looks just like butterscotch," she said softly, brushing Mia's curls from her eyes. "Maybe one day, we'll get you a real puppy." Mia beamed. "Can we name him Waffles?" Harper nodded, hiding the catch in her throat. The knock came hours later. Not the landlord, not another past-due bill. A woman stood in the doorway, dressed sharply, clipboard in hand. Not unfriendly, but official. "You're Ms. Quinn?" she asked. Harper nodded, bracing for the blow. "I'm with Wilmot Services. You applied for in-home childcare assistance." Harper blinked. She hadn't, but she didn't have the luxury of pride. The woman smiled. "We're offering a free live-in childcare trial, just for 2 weeks. Background checked, highly qualified." Harper stared. "Wait, someone's just giving me help." Behind her, Mia danced through the living room in a tutu. The woman gestured behind her. "Actually, he's already here." The man who stepped forward, didn't look like a nanny. Tall, lean, dressed in simple dark clothes. No clipboard, no fake smile, just cool confidence, and eyes the color of smoke at twilight. "This is..." Harper began. The woman nodded. "Jack. He's one of our most requested professionals." Jack offered a quiet smile. "Nice to meet you, Ms. Quinn." Harper's mouth opened, closed. Something about him didn't make sense. Too calm, too sure, too something. Still, Mia ran to him like she already knew him. Within 10 minutes, they were building a cardboard castle on the floor. Harper watched, suspicious, arms crossed. "I didn't sign up for this," she said. Jack glanced over. "Sometimes, help shows up before we're ready to ask." The days blurred. Jack moved like he'd always belonged, folding laundry, tutoring Mia with puzzles, cooking better meals than Harper could afford. He never overstepped, never asked questions, but he noticed everything, especially Harper. At night, she caught him on the fire escape, reading quietly, the skyline glowing behind him. He never used his phone, never left. Mia adored him. Harper was terrified she might too. Then came the envelope, slipped under the door. No return address. Inside, a single sheet of legal paper. Final notice. Eviction effective in 72 hours. Harper's vision blurred. Her knees gave out as she sat on the edge of the couch. Jack appeared in the doorway. "What happened?" She held up the letter. He read it once, said nothing, disappeared into his room. 10 minutes later, her phone buzzed. Payment confirmed. Balance, $0. Harper stared, cold fear curling in her gut. She stormed to his door. "Jack!" He stood calmly, no emotion in his face. "You pay my rent." "Yes." "Why? How?" He paused, voice quiet. "Because you needed it." "That's not an answer." He stepped closer, his expression unreadable. "You'll understand soon." The next morning, Harper walked into her part-time receptionist job, only to find her desk cleaned out. "CEO's orders," the HR rep said. "We're restructuring." Her breath caught. "Wait, the CEO? Who?" The woman looked puzzled. "Didn't you know? Mr. Lennox returned this week." Jack Lennox. Harper's stomach turned to stone. Jack, the nanny, was her billionaire boss, and she had no idea what kind of game he was playing. Harper couldn't breathe. She stood in the lobby of Lennox Holdings like a ghost who'd walked into her own funeral. Every instinct screamed this had to be some mistake, some twisted joke. But no, the name was right there in shining chrome across the back wall. Jack Lennox, CEO, and the man who'd tucked Mia into bed last night. The one who fixed squeaky cabinet doors and made the best damn grilled cheese she'd ever tasted Was the billionaire everyone in Manhattan either wanted to marry or destroy? Jack. She stumbled out of the building, past the revolving doors, into the biting wind. A few blocks later, her phone buzzed. Jack Lennox, we need to talk. Now. She didn't respond. Her legs carried her toward the park where Mia liked to feed the ducks, trying to make sense of the past week. The humility, the quiet way he moved in her space, the way he listened, none of it made sense anymore. He wasn't some good Samaritan. He was a man with power and a reason for hiding it. That night, he was waiting when she got home, standing in her kitchen like he owned the walls around him. Technically, maybe he did. Harper shut the door hard behind her. You lied to me. Jack didn't flinch. I withheld. Same thing, she snapped. You let me think you were a nanny. I was the nanny. Her jaw tightened. No, you were playing poor. Slumming. What was this? A game. Jack's voice stayed low. No games. I just wanted to see something for myself. See what? He paused. What my company missed when they passed you over last year. Her heart stopped. Excuse me. I saw your resume. HR flagged it and tossed it. Overqualified. Single mom. Too much baggage, they said. His eyes locked on hers. I didn't agree. Harper's hands trembled. So you disguise yourself to spy on me? No. I came to understand you. She laughed bitterly. Well, mission accomplished. Jack stepped forward. You have no idea what I've seen, Harper. How many boardrooms are filled with liars and cowards in tailored suits? But you, he exhaled, you build castles out of cereal boxes for your kid while carrying the weight of the world on your back. And you never break. The silence that followed wasn't soft. It crackled. She didn't know whether to scream or sob. I don't want your pity, she said hoarsely. You don't have it, Jack said. You have my respect. And a job offer. Executive advisor. 6 figures. Benefits. Flex time for Mia. Harper stared. You think you can fix this with a paycheck? Jack's voice went quiet. I think I'm trying to show you I see you. Her chest ached. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel small. But she also didn't feel safe. Because something about this man still didn't add up. The next day, she walked into Lennox Holdings through the VIP entrance. All heads turned. Not because she looked like someone new, but because she looked like someone important. She wore the suit Jack sent her. She carried herself like she belonged. But her eyes searched for him. And when she found Jack waiting near the elevators, the entire world fell away. He didn't smile. He only offered a quiet nod. And for reasons she couldn't explain, it meant more than 1,000 apologies. Because Jack Lennox wasn't just rich. He wasn't just powerful. He was dangerous. And Harper wasn't sure if he'd just save her life or claimed it. Harper walked into her new office like a soldier entering enemy territory. The floor-to-ceiling glass glared down on her, and every polished surface screamed, "You don't belong here." But she kept her head high, even as whispers curled behind her. Isn't that the nanny girl? I heard the CEO installed her overnight. A fair. She ignored them all. Her desk was sleek, her title sharp, executive advisor to the CEO. But the seat was hotter than it looked. Every move she made, every email she sent, she felt eyes tracking her, waiting for her to trip. Especially one pair. Jessica Halston, the former top advisor, now transitioned into an undefined role, and not quietly. She made it known. I don't care if she babysat the Pope's children. Jessica hissed in her phone just outside Harper's glass walls. She doesn't have the pedigree. Harper didn't flinch, but her fingers tightened on her pen. She stayed late that night, studying financial briefings until her vision blurred. She wasn't going to fail, not because of whispers, not because of Jack, and definitely not because of her past. She was still highlighting projections when the door opened behind her. She didn't need to look up. I know that cologne. Jack chuckled. That's alarming. I memorized it from Mia's bed sheets. His expression shifted. She still asked for you. Harper's throat closed for a second. She's strong. She'll adapt. Jack leaned against the edge of her desk. You think I gave you this job out of guilt? Didn't you? He shook his head. I gave you this job because you're better than the people pretending they earned theirs. People like Jessica. Jack's smile faded. She'll try to undermine you. That's a promise. But I'm trusting you to survive it. Harper arched an eyebrow. Trust, huh? That's rich coming from you. He met her gaze without flinching. I earned that. A beat of silence. Then Harper asked, quieter, why didn't you tell me who you were? Jack hesitated. Because the way you looked at me, it wasn't fear. It wasn't calculation. It was real. And I wanted to keep that just for a little longer. She swallowed hard. You think I'm going to forgive you because of that? No, he said simply. I think you're going to outperform everyone here, and then decide if I'm worth forgiving. Harper stood, and for the first time, she noticed how close they really were. No sweets, no lies, just heat between two people trying to pretend it wasn't real. I need boundaries, she said softly. Jack nodded, and I'll honor them. But you'll keep watching me. Another nod. Always. That night, as Harper walked into her apartment, exhausted but electrified, Mia ran to her arms. Her daughter's laughter chased away every whisper from that office. For now, but her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He's not who you think. No name, no signature, just a warning. And Harper's blood ran cold, because deep down, she knew something wasn't right. Jack Lennox had secrets, and someone was desperate to make sure she found them. The message wouldn't leave her mind. He's not who you think. Harper had reread it 20 times. No number, no signature, just a warning. It haunted her through every second of the next day. At work, Jack was calm, composed, every bit the CEO the world revered. He nodded at her in meetings, never lingering too long. Professional, distant, but her skin prickled every time his eyes met hers, as if he knew she was pulling away. And she was. Because now, Harper wasn't just the woman who'd stumbled into power. She was the one being watched. That evening, she called the number back. It was dead, disconnected. When she returned to her office the next morning, a yellow folder sat on her desk. No name, no sender, just one word written across it in thick black ink. Henley. Her pulse spiked. Henley was Jack's former company, the one he'd sold a year before taking over this one. Everyone praised him for the exit, called it a strategic masterstroke. But Harper had grown up around shadows, and something about that folder felt radioactive. She hesitated, then opened it. The first page was a balance sheet, neat, ordinary. The second was a list of names. The third was a photo of Jack, but not the man she knew. He looked younger, sharper, cold, surrounded by men in suits who didn't belong in boardrooms. They belonged in courtrooms. The caption beneath it chilled her. Henley Corp. Ties to Deep Rail Corp confirmed. Harper didn't know what Deep Rail was, but the next pages told her more than she wanted to know. Bribes, memos, contracts signed under ghost shell companies. A trail of fire behind Jack Lennox. She shoved the folder into her desk drawer and locked it. She was shaking. And Jack. He walked in 10 minutes later, holding coffee like nothing was wrong. Rough night, he asked. She stared at him. Just tired. He placed the coffee down. Hazelnut. No sugar. Like you like it. And before she could stop herself, she asked, what happened at Henley? Jack froze. Only for a breath. But Harper saw it. The flicker of hesitation, the exact beat she needed to confirm everything in that folder. He recovered quickly. It's ancient history. Not to me, she said. His jaw clenched. Then maybe we need to reevaluate your priorities. Maybe we do, Harper replied, heart pounding. Jack stepped forward, voice low. You're starting to act like an enemy. I'm starting to act like a mother, she shot back. One who can't afford to be blind. They stood in silence, tension thick as concrete. Then he said it. I told you this wasn't going to be clean. You told me nothing, she whispered. Jack turned and left, but not before she saw it again. That flicker of regret. And something else. Fear. Later that night, Harper stood at Mia's bedroom door, watching her daughter sleep. Safe, innocent, trusting. And Harper knew, no matter what it cost, she had to find the truth. Because the man she'd fallen for might be the very thing she'd spent her whole life running from. Harper had always trusted her instincts. They'd kept her alive through sleepless nights, empty fridges, and heartbreak she never let show. But now, those same instincts screamed at her to run, while another voice whispered, don't you dare. She chose the latter and opened the locked drawer. The folder still sat there, heavy and ominous. She slipped it into her bag and left the office without telling anyone, not even Jack. Especially not Jack. She didn't know where she was going until she was already there. A small cafe on the Lower East Side. She'd met a woman there once. Rena, a former Henley employee who'd been blackballed after testifying in a whistleblower suit. A ghost like Harper used to be. She found her in the back booth, sipping black coffee like it was armor. "You still asking questions about Lennox?" Rena said without looking up. Harper nodded, heart hammering. "I need answers." Rena pulled her hood back, revealing tired eyes and a face that had seen too much corporate warfare. "Jack Lennox doesn't just hide things. He buries them." Harper slid the folder across the table. Rena flipped through it without flinching. "Some of this I saw firsthand. Some even I didn't know. What was Henley really doing?" Harper whispered. Rena met her gaze. "Offshore funds. Illegal buyouts. A dead whistleblower named Carlu." Harper's stomach twisted. "And Jack?" Rena didn't blink. He was the fixer, the cleaner, the one who made the bodies disappear. On paper, anyway. Harper sat back, breath shallow. This wasn't just ambition. This was rot. And Jack had worn it like a second skin. But he left it all behind. Harper said, almost to herself. "He could have stayed hidden. Why show up at my door?" Rena shook her head. Maybe guilt. Maybe obsession. Or maybe he wanted to build something clean for once. "Can you prove any of it?" Harper asked. Rena tapped the folder. "Not without risking both our necks." Later that night, Harper returned to the penthouse, folder clutched in her coat. The lights were dim, the air still, and Jack stood waiting in the kitchen, a glass of untouched bourbon in his hand. "You were followed," he said. Her heart skipped. "By who?" "My security," he replied. "Because I knew the moment you took that file, you'd go digging." Harper didn't flinch. "You should have told me the truth." Jack stepped closer, every inch of him unreadable. "You think I don't want to? That I don't wake up every day thinking today might be the day everything catches up? Then tell me now." Silence. Then Jack said, "You're the only person I've ever met who didn't want something from me." Her voice cracked. "And you still lied." "I wanted a different version of my story," he said. "One that didn't end in blood and betrayal. One that started with cardboard castles and cereal for dinner." Harper's breath caught, because she wanted that too. But truth had a price. "I can't protect you from your past," she said, "but I won't let it destroy Mia's future." His expression broke. "Only slightly, but enough. I would never hurt her." "You already are," she whispered. Jack took a step back, as if the words struck harder than he expected. She left without another word, folder still in hand. She didn't see him sink into the kitchen stool, elbows on the counter, hands in his hair like a man finally out of moves. Because Harper wasn't walking away from him. She was walking towards something more dangerous. The truth. Harper didn't sleep. She sat on her couch all night, the Henley folder open on the coffee table like a wound she couldn't close. Every page bled questions. Every answer led back to one truth. Jack Lennox was a man with enemies. Real ones. The kind who didn't threaten with lawsuits, but with silence. And now she'd put herself and Mia in the crosshairs. By morning, the story had changed. Literally, a headline blared across business sites. "Lennox Holdings linked to past corruption at Henley Corp. Whistleblower emerges." Harper stared in disbelief. She hadn't spoken to anyone. Neither had Rena. So who leaked it? And why now? Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You should have stayed quiet." Then came a second text. A photo. Mia. Outside her school. Harper's world tilted. She was already grabbing her keys when Jack appeared in her doorway. No warning, no knocking, just pure force of presence. "I saw the leak," he said. "It wasn't you. Was it?" She shoved the phone at him. "No, but someone wants me to look guilty." Jack read the text, then the photo. His entire body went still. "Get your things. Now. Where are we going?" "Somewhere no one can touch her." 20 minutes later, Harper sat in the back of a tinted black SUV with Mia curled in her lap. Jack barked orders into a satellite phone, and for once, she didn't argue. Because this wasn't about pride anymore. This was about survival. They pulled up to a private townhouse, heavily secured, tucked behind iron gates and thick hedges. Inside, Harper found a panic room, bulletproof windows, and enough surveillance to monitor a small nation. "This is where you live?" she asked. Jack shook his head. "This is where I go when people want me dead." He wasn't joking. And Harper knew then that Henley wasn't just a scandal. It was a graveyard. "Who leaked the file?" she asked. Jack poured himself water, but didn't drink it. "Could be Rena. Could be someone trying to burn what's left of me. And us. You're collateral." Her heart pounded. "Then fix it." "I'm trying." He looked at her then. Really looked. And for the first time, there was no armor. No performance. Just a man haunted by the weight of everything he'd built and everything he'd ruined. "You should have stayed away," he said quietly. "I tried," she whispered. Mia stirred and reached for him in her sleep, her small fingers brushing his arm. Jack froze, then gently held her hand. Something in his eyes cracked. "You said you wanted a different ending," Harper said. Jack nodded. "Then stop running from your story," she added. Silence hung between them, but wasn't cold anymore. It was heavy, fragile, real. Later that night, Harper stood at the window, watching the world go dark beyond the glass. Behind her, Jack sat with Mia, sleeping on his chest, his walls gone, if only for a moment. And Harper realized something terrifying. She still didn't trust him, but she wasn't ready to lose him either. Because this wasn't just about exposing the past. It was about choosing what kind of future she was willing to fight for. And Jack Lennox, for all his darkness, might still be worth saving. The world didn't wait for the truth. By morning, Jack Lennox's face was plastered across every news outlet like a scarlet letter. Not just the finance blogs and investor channels, but the tabloids. Social media. Parenting Forum. The story had a villain, and it had a woman in the middle of it. Harper Quinn. She woke up to chaos. Reporters crowded the lobby of her building. Neighbors whispered in the hallway. And at Mia's preschool, the staff pulled her aside with two sweet smiles and barely concealed concern. "We just want to make sure Mia feels safe," one teacher said gently. Harper smiled back, the kind of smile that barely covered fury. "She's fine," she replied, gripping her daughter's hand tightly. But she wasn't fine. None of it was fine. By noon, her phone buzzed. A summons. No name, just board meeting. Lennox Holdings. Conference room B12. She didn't hesitate, and she didn't wear armor. She wore the same suit Jack had sent her weeks ago, the one that made her look like she belonged in the room. Because she did, or she had, until now. They didn't offer her coffee when she arrived. Just a seat at the end of a long table filled with dark suits, sharper eyes, and zero empathy. The oldest man, silver hair, red tie, a smile that never reached his eyes, spoke first. "We appreciate your time, Ms. Quinn." Harper folded her hands, steady. "I'm sure you do." Another board member leaned forward. "This situation with Mr. Lennox, it's unfortunate." Harper didn't speak. She waited. They liked control. Letting them fill silence was her power now. "Your name is in the articles," the woman across her said flatly. "Some are calling a scandal. Others, a distraction. And some," the red tie man added, "are wondering if you were ever qualified for your position." There it was. The truth. This wasn't a meeting. It was a cleansing. "Let me guess," Harper said, voice calm. "You want me to resign quietly. Protect the brand. Disappear." A beat of silence. Then nods. "We understand this is difficult." She laughed, soft and bitter. "No, you don't." They didn't flinch. One of them slid a manila envelope toward her. "The board recommends this exit package. It includes a generous severance." She didn't touch it. "I've done nothing wrong," she said. "No," red tie agreed. "But you've become inconvenient." She stood, slow and sure. "I'll give you something to think about," she said. "If your biggest threat is a woman who worked her way up from a secondhand blazer and a subway pass, then maybe your empire was never built right to begin with." And with that, she left. But she didn't leave the building. Not yet, because Jack was still in his office, back turned, shoulders heavy, staring at the skyline like it might forgive him. "You left me alone in that room," she said. He didn't turn. "I didn't want you in that room. But I was. Because of you." Jack finally faced her. "You think I wanted any of this? You wanted to play savior. And now you don't know how to clean up your own mess." Silence stretched between them. Not cold, but heavy. Then Jack walked across the room and handed her a folder. Inside, a formal resignation letter. Her name typed at the top. "I'm not firing you," he said quietly. "But if you stay, they'll crucify you to get to me. So you're giving me an escape hatch. I'm giving you a choice." She stared at the paper. "I've survived worse than a few men in suits," she said. "But you? I'm not sure you've survived anything at all." Jack's expression flickered, something like shame. She closed the folder, didn't sign. Then she said the one thing he hadn't prepared for. "Mia asked why you didn't say goodbye this morning." He looked away. "She doesn't care about your past. She cares that you showed up." Jack's voice cracked. "I'm trying. Try harder," she said. "For her." And then, quietly, "For you." She turned to go, paused in the doorway. "If you're going to burn for something, Jack Lennox, make it worth the ashes." She walked out before he could reply. And behind her, the man who once built empires stood in silence, holding the folder like it weighed more than every building he'd ever owned. The board didn't wait for Jack Lennox to fall. They orchestrated the collapse. Before sunrise, the story had shifted. Not just CEO scandal anymore. No, they wanted headlines that bled. The kind that made investors panic and the public forget the details. Jack Lennox removed amid Henley fallout. Power vacuum at Lennox Holdings. Board moves swiftly. Jessica Halston named acting CEO amid crisis. It was brutal and surgical. Harper stared at the news on her cracked phone screen, her heart pounding like it wanted to claw its way out of her chest. The photos were worse. Jack in grayscale, shoulders hunched as he left the building. No entourafe, no defense, just a man walking into his own ruin. And beside it, her name, Harper Quinn, the quiet woman behind the collapse. She dropped the phone, not because of the headline, she expected that, but because Mia's preschool called an hour later. "Some of the other parents have concerns," the administrator said over the phone, voice lined with forced calm. "Given the publicity, we think it's best she stays home for now." Harper hung up without saying goodbye. She packed Mia's things with shaking hands. By then, the note was already at her door. An envelope. No return address. No handwriting she recognized. Just one sheet of paper. "He won't fight for himself. Maybe he'll fight for you." And an address. That night, after Mia was asleep and the city had gone quiet, Harper stood outside a gated townhouse uptown. Boarded windows. Dust on the steps. A place forgotten by wealth, but still owned by it. She almost turned around. But something in her heart, the same thing that had kept her upright through every single punch, told her to knock. The door opened before her knuckles hit wood. Jack stood there. Not the CEO, not the nanny. Just him. No tie, no watch. Hoodie and jeans. Eyes darker than she remembered. Jaw unshaved. Face raw with something closer to grief than guilt. "You came," he said. She stepped inside. "I wasn't going to." The house smelled of old leather and silence. The kind of place where a man went when he didn't want to be found. When hiding wasn't cowardice, it was survival. "I thought you were gone," she said. "I was. What brought you back?" He looked at her. "You did." She didn't know what to do with that. He led her to a back room, barely lit. Papers strewn across the floor. Laptops open. Stock charts, legal threats, resignation drafts. A battlefield. She picked up the resignation letter with her name on it. "You were going to sign this for me?" she asked. "I wanted you free," he said quietly. "Untouched." She stepped closer. "I wasn't untouched. I was blamed. I was humiliated. I was erased." Jack looked away. "I didn't mean for it to happen this way." "No, Harper Blade. You just thought you could disappear before the story finished." Jack sat down hard. "I've made peace with losing everything," he said. Harper watched him. Watched the crack spider across the walls he'd spent years building. "You haven't lost everything yet." He looked up. "What do you want, Harper?" The question broke something in her chest. "I want to stop looking at you and wondering if I made the worst mistake of my life," she said. "I want Mia to go to school without whispers. I want to breathe again." Jack nodded. And then, the moment he stopped being the man who ran. "I'm going to the press." She froze. "What?" "I'll call the press. Make a statement. No lawyer-crafted apologies. Just truth. The real Henley. What I knew. What I buried. And what I'm willing to lose to clean it up. You'll lose your empire. I already did. You'll never work in this town again. I don't deserve to. Silence. Then Harper said, slowly, "Why now?" Jack's voice cracked. "Because you showed up, and because she called me Daddy in her sleep last night. I thought I could stay distant, but I can't. Not from her. Not from you." Harper's heart splintered and swelled at once. She took a breath. "Then do it," she said. "Tell the truth. And you." She held his gaze. "I'll stand beside you. Not because you deserve it, but because sometimes we fight for who people can become, not who they were." He swallowed hard and nodded. That night, Jack wrote the statement, and Harper sat across from him in silence, watching the man the world was tearing apart take responsibility for the mess no one else would. Tomorrow, the world would see the real Jack Lennox, and Harper would be right beside him, for better or for whatever came next. The press conference was set for 10 a.m. sharp, but the war started long before that. Jack had arrived an hour early, dressed in a charcoal suit that fit him like armor, not to impress, but to absorb the hits. The media buzzed outside the Lennox Holdings headquarters like vultures circling a dying empire. Inside, Harper stood just offstage, watching through the side curtain. No cameras pointed at her. No podium. No title anymore. But her presence still meant everything. To Jack. To Mia. To herself. When he stepped out onto the stage, the room quieted like someone had pulled the air from it. Flashbulbs sparked. Fingers hovered over record buttons. Not one journalist blinked. Jack adjusted the mic, then spoke. "My name is Jack Lennox, and for the past decade, I've built an empire on silence. No prepared speech, no legal jargon, just truth." He laid it bare. His role at Henley, the cover-ups, the whispered buyouts, the executives who turn a blind eye, his guilt, and then he said something no one expected. "I walked away from Henley to start over, but I never earned that second chance. I ran, and I pretended that staying quiet was the same as doing better." A murmur rolled through the room. He didn't stop. "I met someone who changed that. Someone who didn't care about legacy or money or power, just whether I could be better. For her daughter, for the future." He looked out across the sea of eyes and said the words that would define him forever. "I'm not asking to be forgiven. I'm asking to be accountable." When he stepped off stage, the world behind the cameras erupted. But in the hallway, it was quiet until Harper appeared. They stood face to face. No tension now, just clarity. "You actually did it," she whispered. "I told you I would. And what now?" Jack exhaled. "Now I lose everything." She studied him. "Not everything." He smiled. Not the smurf from their first days, but something gentler. "Real. I meant what I said. About you. About Mia." Harper's voice was steady. "I know, and I believe you meant it when you left that night, too." His face faltered. "You still don't trust me." "I don't have to," she replied. "Not fully. Trust isn't a light switch. It's a match you have to keep striking." Jack nodded slowly. "And are you willing to keep striking it?" she asked. He didn't answer with words. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. A handwritten note. Mia's crayon signature across the bottom. "She gave this to me before I left," he said. "Said it was for when I got scared." Harper opened it. Inside, a wobbly stick figure drawing. 3 people. A woman, a man, and a little girl with wild curls. All holding hands. Above it, a single word in purple marker. "Us." Harper's throat closed. Jack looked away. "I don't know what we are, but I know what I want to be." Her hand reached for his, not tightly, not possessively. Just there, present. "I'm not promising forever," she said. "You don't have to." He squeezed her hand once, then let it go, and they walked out together. Into the cameras, into the chaos, into whatever came next. Because this wasn't a fairy tale. It was a rebuilding, and Harper Quinn never needed saving. She only needed someone willing to stand beside her when the world came crashing down. And Jack Lennox? He was finally learning how to stay.